Welcome back. Today we're reviewing a transcript for a motivational video titled, "If You're About to Win, This Video Will Appear," which argues that the total breakdown of one's life, isolation, loss, confusion, is actually a mechanical requirement for a massive spiritual breakthrough.
The piece currently functions as a cyclical reassurance loop, but it needs a progressive narrative arc to keep the listener engaged beyond the initial hook.
Yeah, that is the immediate friction point I felt while reading this too.
Right. It feels like a carousel. You get on, you see the scenery.
The destruction equals creation scenery.
Exactly. And then you just keep spinning past that exact same scenery for the next, 8 minutes.
I mean, the core argument is strong. You really do have to break the old to build the new.
Sure, but the script hammers this singular point repeatedly without actually evolving it.
Yeah, we have the metaphor of the seed breaking its shell. Then, maybe 2 paragraphs later, we get the forest fire clearing the ground.
And then the software update crashing the old hardware.
Right. And then the cup that needs to be emptied before it can be filled.
And while those are all really classic, evocative images, by stacking them horizontally like that, we create a pacing plateau.
A pacing plateau, yes. The listener gets it.
They do. They understood the concept at minute 2. If we are still explaining that breaking is good at minute 6, using just a totally different metaphor, we aren't adding value.
We're just restating the thesis.
Exactly. It stops feeling like a journey and it starts feeling like a chant.
So the move here is to stop looping and start climbing.
Right.
We need to restructure the content so it moves clearly from validation to diagnosis and finally to prescription.
I love that framework. It totally mirrors the psychological state of the listener.
Validation, diagnosis, prescription.
Yeah, let's break down how we sort that existing pile of metaphors into those specific buckets to actually create some momentum.
Okay, so first, we look at the validation bucket. This belongs strictly in the first third of the piece.
Makes sense.
The script lists a lot of symptoms, right? The feeling of isolation, plans suddenly crumbling, the exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix.
But right now, those are just scattered all throughout the text.
Exact. So I suggest gathering them all up and front-loading. This section answers the question, do you see me?
Right, you are mirroring their reality back to them. You don't need to explain why the plans are crumbling yet.
No, not at all.
You just need to describe the crumbling so accurately that the listener nods and says, yes, that is exactly my Tuesday.
It builds immediate trust.
It really does.
Then we transition to diagnosis. This is the middle section, and this is where those mechanism metaphors belong.
Exactly. This is the home for the seed breaking the shell and the software incompatibility stuff.
Because these aren't just poetic images.
Right. They are explanations of the physics of the situation. By moving them to the middle, you are answering the question, why is this happening?
You shift the listener from feeling like a victim of bad luck to understanding they're in a process of mechanical necessity.
The shell must break for the sprout to emerge. It's not a tragedy, it's biology.
That pivot is so crucial, and it sets up the final third beautifully for the prescription.
Which is where the script currently struggles the most, honestly.
Yeah, because it mixes the how-to with the what's wrong.
Right. The script touches on trusting the signs, intuitive hits, and the internal navigation system. I would advise stripping all those forward-looking elements out of the first 2 sections entirely and just saving them for the finale.
It changes the energy completely. If you sprinkle the solution throughout the problem, the solution just gets diluted.
Totally.
But if you save the trust and action elements for the end, the piece finishes on a high note of agency. You're not circling back to the breakdown anymore.
You're pointing at the exit.
Exactly.
It creates narrative velocity. You validate the pain, you diagnose the cause's growth, and then you prescribe the behavior to navigate it. That is a really satisfying arc.
Okay. Moving to the next layer of the critique, while the abstract imagery creates a grand atmosphere, the script lacks the sensory friction of real-world examples that would make the advice actionable.
Oh, I felt this distance keenly. The language is incredibly elevated.
It's very cosmic.
Very. We have terms like energy shift, consciousness outgrowing its container, vibrational misalignment.
New receptors.
Yes, new receptors. It sounds very authoritative, almost like a sermon.
It really does. And for an audience that is deeply into this niche, that language signals belonging.
Sure. However, it can also feel incredibly unmoored.
Right.
If I'm a listener standing in the wreckage of my life, maybe I just got fired or my partner left, energy shift is a concept that is very hard to hold in my hands. It just slips right through.
The script relies on those safe cliches we mentioned early. The sea, the void.
Yeah.
They're safe because they're universal, but they're also impersonal. I mean, a seed doesn't have a mortgage.
No, it doesn't.
A forest fire doesn't have to deal with awkward social interactions.
Precisely. So I wonder if we can anchor these high-flying spiritual concepts in specific, visceral, modern human experiences. We really need to increase the friction here.
Let's look at the section about social isolation. The script says, conversations that used to engage you now feel hollow.
Which is a clear statement, but it's telling, not showing.
It's way too smooth.
Right. To fix this, I would describe the specific physical sensation of that hollowness. Imagine you're writing a scene in a movie. You're sitting at a dinner table with friends you've known for a decade. The lighting is warm, the food is good, but then someone starts complaining about something incredibly trivial.
Like the new coffee machine at the office?
Yes, or a really minor grievance with a neighbor.
And suddenly, you feel it.
You physically feel your chest tighten. It's not just boredom. It's almost an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
You feel the urge to just stand up and walk out of the room because the topic feels so incredibly small compared to the internal earthquake you're surviving. You are looking at their mouths moving, and it looks like a foreign film without subtitles.
That is visceral. I can feel the heat in that room. That connects vibrational misalignment to a Tuesday night dinner.
It proves you know what the listener's actually going through on a Tuesday night.
We can do the exact same thing with the software-hardware analogy. The text mentions that life starts feeling glitchy.
Right?
But what does a human glitch actually feel like? It's not blue screens and code.
I'd suggest describing the brain fog.
Oh, absolutely.
Describe standing in the grocery aisle, staring at a box of cereal you have bought every single week for 5 years. You're looking at the logo, and suddenly you don't know why you want it.
Yes.
You don't know who that person was who used to eat this. It's a specific moment of dissociation where your muscle memory just completely fails. That is the hardware rejecting the old software.
That is so much more relatable than just saying incompatibility. It validates the deep confusion people feel when their preferences just change overnight. We can apply this to the distractions mentioned in the text too. The script says, distractions no longer work and feel empty.
Again, a bit abstract. Let's get gritty with it. Replace that with a specific behavior. Describe the emptiness of scrolling through a phone for 3 straight hours.
Yeah, the thumb moving automatically.
The eye scanning, but the brain registering absolutely zero joy or interest. It's a complete zombie state. Or describe the specific taste of a quick fix, maybe fast food or a drink that literally tastes like ash or cardboard in your mouth because it simply cannot touch the hunger you actually have.
That totally grounds the spiritual in the physical. It makes the energy shift undeniable because you can feel it in your thumb or taste it in your mouth.
It forces the listener to say, "My God, get out of my head." That is when you have them.
Let's shift gears a bit. The script risks offering dangerous advice by framing all negativity and loss as evidence of impending victory, lacking the necessary nuance to distinguish between a breakthrough and a simple bad situation.
This is where my constructive skepticism alarm bells started ringing the absolute loudest.
Same here.
There is a specific line in the text that says, emptiness isn't depression, it's space.
That is a very, very bold claim.
It is a bold claim, and structurally, it's a dangerous one. Is there a risk that focusing solely on winning might overlook the reality of mental health?
Definitely.
If a listener is actually suffering from clinical depression, telling them it's just space for a breakthrough could actively prevent them from seeking the medical or therapeutic help they really need.
I agree completely. It glosses over the difference between a spiritual crisis and a mental health crisis. And there is a similar issue with the closed doors concept.
Oh, right.
The material makes a strong case that every closed door is a better one opening. But we know that sometimes, in reality, a door closes because we made a mistake or because of systemic issues or just plain bad luck.
Exactly. Assuming every failure is a secret success can lead to a total lack of accountability. Sometimes you didn't outgrow the job. Sometimes you were just late every day and got fired.
So the suggestion here is to introduce a litmus test.
Yes, we need to provide a set of criteria to help the listener discern. We need to distinguish between rot and pruning.
I love that distinction. Rot is destructive failure, pruning is productive failure.
Right.
How do we help the listener tell them apart in the actual script?
Well, we build on the exhaustion point the script already raises. The script says you are exhausted because you are swimming upstream against your new life. We could add a section contrasting the exhaustion point of misalignment with the exhaustion of collapse.
Oh, like the difference between being tired from the flu and being tired from a hard workout?
Exactly. One implies sickness, the other implies strengthening. The script should explicitly ask the listener, are you depleted or are you sore?
Does this pain feel like injury or does it feel like expansion?
Right, that is a crucial nuance that adds a much-needed layer of safety and intelligence to the piece.
And we can refine that depression versus space argument too.
We absolutely must. We shouldn't just say it's not depression. We should describe the quality of the emptiness.
Describe the texture of it.
Yes, does the emptiness feel heavy, stagnant, dark, and hopeless? Because that might be depression, and that needs attention. Or does it feel pregnant, expectant, and quiet? Like the silence in a theater right before the curtain goes up. That is the void.
That distinction is vital. It really respects the listener's intelligence.
I also think we need to address the chaos element.
Oh, yeah.
The script implies chaos is a sign you are winning, but sometimes chaos is just negligence.
True. If your life is falling apart, is it because the universe is rearranging it or because you just stopped paying your bills?
We should define what chaos with a purpose looks like versus chaos due to checking out. Is your life falling apart because you are renovating the house, which is incredibly messy but purposeful, or because the roof caved in due to rot?
Those look very different.
They do. The script needs to acknowledge that you still have to sweep the floor, even while the universe is shifting.
That adds a layer of responsibility that actually strengthens the spiritual argument. It stops it from being a get-out-of-jail-free card for bad behavior and neglect.
Precisely. It makes the argument robust. It says, we know the difference, and we are asking you to know the difference too.
Now let's look at the conclusion. The conclusion currently promotes a passive wait-and-see approach that undermines the listener's agency, whereas a stronger conclusion would focus on active surrender.
This is a subtle but really important shift in the final minute of the piece. The text currently says, you've already won, you just haven't seen the evidence yet.
It's a comforting thought, obviously meant to soothe anxiety.
It is, but is there a risk that this leads to passivity? If I have already won and the video says that the universe will deliver, I might just sit on the couch, eat chips, and wait for the doorbell to ring.
The script mentions internal navigation and intuitive hits, but it treats them as things that just happen to you.
Right. It says sudden opportunities appearing or ideas downloading. It paints the listener as a vessel. And being a vessel is fine, but it's not very empowering for someone who feels deeply stuck and helpless.
No, they need something to do with their hands.
Exactly.
So the pivot here is to change the advice from waiting for the win to practicing the new frequency.
Practicing the frequency, I really like that. It turns being into doing. It turns the waiting room into a rehearsal space.
Let's verify this with some concrete example. The source talks about an internal navigation system. How do we make that active for the listener?
We need to flesh it out. Don't just say, trust your gut. That's way too vague. Give the listener 3 distinct ways to test that system. For example, how does one actually differentiate a fear response from an intuition response?
That's a great actionable tip. Usually fear is loud, frantic, and shouts, "Don't do it," immediately.
Exactly. Whereas intuition is usually quiet, calm, and relentless. It doesn't shout, it just refuses to leave. So teach them to run a diagnostic.
Run a diagnostic. I like that phrasing.
Tell them if the voice in your head is frantic and hyperventilating, it's fear. If it's quiet, flat, and persistent, it's intuition. That is a tool they can use 5 minutes after the critique ends.
I also think we can sharpen the advice on relationships. The script says to let relationships fall away.
Which, if you take it literally, sounds like ghosting people. Sorry, I'm vibrating too high to text you back.
Right, exactly. Instead of just letting them die through neglect, offer a method for conscious closure.
That's fascinating. What would that look like in the script?
It's about giving them the words to say no to old obligations without burning bridges out of malice. It's actively choosing to step back.
Give them a script.
Yeah, the script could suggest saying, I'm in a period of deep focus right now and need to pull back from social commitment. That reclaims agency. You aren't losing friends. You are curating your circle.
You are closing the door gently, not letting the wind slam it shut.
And finally, for the very end of the script, I suggest rewriting the ending to focus on micro actions.
Yes, instead of the grand instruction to allow life to move through you, which is beautiful but vague, suggest the listener take one small action that aligns with their new receptors today.
Prove it to yourself.
Exactly. If you believe you're about to step into a new version of yourself, wear the outfit that version would wear today. Send the email that version would send.
Even if it's small.
Even if it's tiny, it shifts the energy from waiting for evidence to creating evidence.
That connects A and B perfectly. You aren't waiting for the win. You are enacting the win. You are behaving as if it is true, which is the absolute strongest signal you can send.
So a key theme running through this entire critique is moving from the abstract loop to a concrete, actionable journey.
We are taking a piece that is very high-flying, almost floating away like a balloon, and we are tying a string to it so the listener can actually hold it.
Let's bring it all together.
Right. To recap the major shifts, we want to transform the structural loop into a narrative arc. Validation first, then diagnosis, then prescription. We want to swap the abstract metaphors like energy shifts for gritty, real-world sensory details, like the physical sensation of a hollow conversation or the brain fog in a grocery aisle.
We also want to add significant nuance. We need a litmus test to distinguish between depression and the void, between rot and pruning, and between sore and injured. We must ensure the listener isn't misinterpreting serious issues as spiritual wins.
Finally, we want to shift from passive waiting to active participation. Don't just wait for the breakthrough. Practice the frequency through micro-actions, diagnostic testing of your intuition, and conscious closure.
I would encourage the listener to view the void described in the script not just as a waiting room where you sit and read magazines until your name is called, but as a workspace.
I love that. A workspace.
It's an empty shop floor. It's quiet because the old machines are gone, but you have to pick up the new tools and start building.
That is a powerful image to end on. We invite the listener to apply these structural and tonal shifts, ground the metaphors, check the logic, and submit the revised draft for a final polish. We'd really love to see how this evolves from a reassurance to a roadmap.
Absolutely. There is a strong core here. It just needs sharper edges to cut through the noise.
Thank you for listening to The Critique. We look forward to your next submission.